This is a story that is sad and disturbing on so many levels. Yes, it is political for a couple of reasons. Number one, yes, Republicans are using it and are going to take advantage of it in a way that is unfortunate and inappropriate. But the reason they are doing that is because, and able to do that, is because of the brand and the kind of person that we all know and believe Joe Biden to be, because it's who he says he is, and it's somebody who is a family man. That's what we see all of the time.
Yes, CNN's Dana Bash singing the praises of the President of the United States, the head of her party, the Democrat Party. One of her ex-husbands was an Obama administration official. He signed on to that fake intelligence letter, Jeremy Bash. Jeremy Bash. She used to be Dana Schwartz, then she married Jeremy Bash, and she became Dana Bash, and then, Democrat Party apparatchik Jeremy Bash, Obama administration, political appointee, fake intelligence person, not a real intelligence person at all. But that Joe Biden, because he is who he says he is, unless you look at that Axios story yesterday where he curses out everyone with the filthiest language known to man for the smallest, most minor offenses, because the real Joe Biden is the Joe Biden that we learn about. Behind closed doors, the real Joe Biden curses at everyone and spitting mad, loses his temper, the drop of a hat, and chews out his staff members. We talked about this yesterday. Played for you the audio of him saying that he would fire anyone as soon as he came into the White House who treated their colleagues rudely or disrespectfully. He'd fire them on the spot. That's no joke. I'm not kidding. He put in a lot of that's no joke, I'm not kidding stuff in there. Said he'd fire him. Now he's got to fire himself because the left-wing Axios, everybody's doing hit pieces on Joe Biden this week. The New York Times and Maureen Dowd saying, hey, that's 7 grandchildren, Mr. President, not 6. Joe Biden variously has said over time that he really has 7 grandchildren, but he doesn't recognize, and the family doesn't recognize one of Hunter Biden's daughters, one of Hunter Biden's children, Navy Joan Roberts, who's the daughter of the exotic dancer from the Gentlemen's Club on H Street. Is it on H Street or K Street, Michael? Yeah, he's pretending he doesn't know. And in any event, seems like a very nice lady, and the child seems like a very nice child. But you've even got Maureen Dowd at the New York Times. It's pretty amazing. Going after Joe Biden for not recognizing the 4-year-old daughter. And the New York Post has a story about the New York Times story because it's so remarkable that Maureen Dowd at the New York Times would publish a story telling the truth about the Biden family, just a little bit of the truth. Biden accused of scarring Hunter's estranged 4-year-old daughter in scathing New York Times op-ed. Can you believe it? That's just completely crazy. Why would anybody at the New York Times say anything like that? President Biden was accused of scarring his son Hunter's estranged 4-year-old daughter with the ex-stripper, who their commander-in-chief refuses to acknowledge, along with his 6 other grandchildren. He's got 7 grandchildren, but he's not really sure how many he has because he's not very good at this or anything else for that matter. He's Mr. Magoo. In a column titled, "It's 7 grandkids, Mr. President," Maureen Dowd excoriated the family crazy 80-year-old president for cutting the granddaughter, Navy Joan Roberts, who is the child of Hunter and former stripper London Alexis Roberts, from the Biden family tree. Not only that, at Christmas time, where you celebrate family and all that, they put the stockings up on the mantle over the fireplace at the White House, but they only put up 6 and not 7 because they don't recognize. It's kind of like a European royal family not recognizing the bastard child, the illegitimate child of the rogue son, right? But for Democrats, this is all just fine because they have no integrity. They don't wish to have any integrity. They're Democrats, after all. And they just want the child to grow up to be LGBTQ. Really, that's all they care about. But it was kind of amazing that it's 7 grandchildren, Mr. President, by Maureen Dowd. And now she's being attacked, of course, by all the people in the news media. How dare she tell the truth about anything related to Democrat political leaders? That's condemned roundly by the news media, which is an extension, an engorged appendage of the Democrat Party. Joe Biden's mantra has always been that the absolute most important thing is your family. That's what Vito Corleone said, too, isn't it? So it's got another thing they've got in common with the Corleone family. It is at the heart of his political narrative. Empathy, born of family tragedies, has been his stock in trade, Maureen Dowd wrote in the New York Times, callously scarring Navy's life just as it gets started undercuts that, you think? And here's the amazing thing. The girl is 4 years old. I've been talking about this for 4 years. The New York Times just noticed it day before yesterday. You know why? Because the Democrat Party, and that means the news media, has decided that it's time to move on from Joe Biden. That Joe Biden is a doddering Mr. Magoo cluster bomb lunatic who screams every curse word in the book at his staffers as soon as the door closes, and then walks out with a big, fake, stupid smile on his face. And the media sells us the big, fake, stupid smile because the media is that corrupt. The media is that dishonest, right? And also, I should mention, the reason I'm not reading off the telephone number, 888-630-9625, is because our phone lines are down today. We have no phone lines. And I blame the National Security Agency. I don't really. But we don't have phones today. So despite cultivating an image devoted to family and himself as a loving father, Biden, for his part, has refused to publicly acknowledge his granddaughter in Arkansas, repeatedly telling the world instead that he has only 6 grandchildren. Now, we have a couple of sound bites on this because Joe Biden has said many times, he's talked about how he has 6 grandchildren. And I've pointed this out many times because I pay attention to the news and I report the news and I tell the truth when the New York Times does not and when Maureen Dowd does not. But now you see the dogs have been loosed. The leash is off. The Democrats have decided that Joe Biden is becoming a liability. He is a liability, but they're able to protect him. And it's time for him to go. He's got to go. And they're going to have to replace him. And I've been talking about this for some time now. They've been playing up the Michigan governor who's awful and terrible, Gretchen Whitmer. And now they're playing up the California governor. They've been playing footsie with him for a while now. But Gavin Newsom is now being played up as well because the Democrat Party, and that means the news media as well, they've got to start finding a way to have Joe Biden exit stage left naturally and to replace him with as little controversy as possible with someone else who they believe will win the presidency because the news media is the Democrat Party's campaign, just as they were with Joe Biden when he was in his basement for the campaign in 2019 and 2020. So, in fact, Biden aides have been told that in a strategy meeting for years that the president has only 6 grandchildren, not 7. And whenever they're asked, they're supposed to lie and say that he has 6 grandchildren. Here's Joe Biden saying that he has only 6 grandchildren, and he said it again and again.
I have 6 grandchildren, and I'm crazy about them. And I speak to them every single day. Not a joke. Matter of fact, I just got finished going through the calls, and only one of them answered the phone.
He's got 6 grandchildren. He talks to them all every day, he says. That's 42 phone calls a day, I think, and then a week, rather. That's 42 phone calls a week for because, he's Joe. But he says he has 6 grandchildren. But let's not forget about the time that he got even that wrong. He has 7 grandchildren. He acknowledges only 6, but every now and then he even gets that wrong.
I got 4 kids, 5 grandkids. Come on. I'm an expert.
He's got 4 kids and 5 grandkids. Come on, I'm an expert. He's He's a tragically misguided person. But wait, that wasn't the only time that he said that he had only 5 grandkids when he had 7, but was supposed to say he had 6.
Yeah, I talk to them every single day. I've been doing that forever, though. There's a deal we have. I have 5 grandchildren, and every single day I either talk to them or we text.
Yeah, every single day, 5 of them, and maybe he leaves 1 out, maybe leaves 2 out every single day. It's hard to say. It's math, and he's not very good at that. Then Dr. Jill, who's not a doctor at all, she had to jump in at one point because he was getting it all wrong, and Dr. Jill came riding to the rescue.
My name is Jill, and this is my husband, Joe. And your children may not know, but we have 3 children, and we have 6 grandchildren.
Didn't Joe just say we have 4 children? But then, he lost count, and it's tragic. But he doesn't actually know how many children he has. He doesn't know how many grandchildren he has. He doesn't admit how many grandchildren he has. And the headlines today out of Europe are calling him Mr. Magoo because he's walking around bumping into things like a jellyfish and talking to members of the British Honor Guard with their big, tall, they're not beefeaters. They're like the Honor Guard, the Palace Guard, and their big, tall, black, fuzzy hats and the red uniforms. And Joe Biden's talking to one of the guards, thinking that the guard's going to start responding to him, having a casual conversation. But they have to stand at attention, and the King of England is standing right there. King had to come over and grab Joe Biden's arm, grabbed him by the elbow, pulled him away, said, you can't talk to these guys. But never mind that. Let's get back to Joe Biden and his love of family and his Mr. Nice Guy facade, which Axios shattered yesterday by revealing something that lots of people knew in Washington, D.C., and have known for a long time, that he's really a mean, nasty, foul-mouthed, vulgar man when the door is closed, and he chews out his staff. And we played it yesterday, but yesterday, where it was the day, Inauguration Day or the day after Inauguration Day, I think at the White House, he made a video, had a Zoom call, and they made a video where he started out by threatening all the staffers that if they treat anyone poorly, if they treat anyone shabbily or disrespectfully, he would fire them on the spot.
I'm not joking when I say this.
He's not joking.
If you're ever working with me and I hear you treat another colleague with disrespect, talk down to someone, I promise you I will fire you on the spot.
I promise you I'll fire you on the spot. That's Joe Biden. And then it turns out that he curses at everyone, and angry Joe Biden. He's Old Yeller. Old Yeller is the front page of the New York Post today.
Wait. You're getting nervous, man. Calm down.
Yeah. Old bitter, angry Joe Biden. And the headline is, Biden angrily yells, curses at aides in private. He yells and curses at aides. And I can't use all the words, but GD and F word and BS and get the F out of here and all these expletives deleted that you can't say on the radio. But that's Joe Biden behind closed doors. Then he comes out with a big smile, and the media says, oh, he's so nice, and he has 6 grandchildren, even though he says he has 5, but really he has 7. And our media is the guiltiest party in all of this, quite honestly. I left
somebody out, didn't I? Anyway, I did say 5. You're right. So let me see. I got 1 in New York, 2 in Philadelphia. There's 3. No, 3, because I got 1 granddaughter who is, I don't know.
He's got 1 living in the White House that got married to his granddaughter who married some guy, and they're living in the White House upstairs on the 3rd floor somewhere. And nobody talks about that. And apparently Hunter spends a lot of time there, too, which might explain the packet of cocaine found near the Situation Room. We got a lot of good stuff. Now, again, Maureen Dowd says that's 7 grandchildren, not 6. And you'll never guess who got all angry about that. They get angry. There are a lot of people, they're Democrats. They're anti-truth. They're literally anti-truth. As I've been saying for years, nothing gets you in trouble like the truth. But I live in Washington. You know, CBDs are everywhere now. They're putting CBDs in everything. And my friends at Generic CBD have infused it into their number one selling deep penetrating muscle and joint cream. And let me tell you, this stuff is amazing. It works like a miracle. It melts right into your knees, your elbows, your shoulder, your back. Especially great for those stiff hands, your knuckles, your fingers. Goes to work in a matter of seconds. Plus, it's a fantastic moisturizer. Ask anybody that uses it. The company's called GenericCBD.com. You've heard me talk about them before. I've got it at home. They sell premium CBD products for a whole lot less cash. And right now, you can get their muscle and joint cream for free. That's right, it's free. All you have to do is pay $2.95 to help with the shipping. Shipping and handling, that's all. And don't worry, it's not a subscription or anything. There are no strings attached. They just want you to try it because they know that once you do, you're going to love it and you're going to buy more. So get your free sample at GenericCBD.com. That's GenericCBD.com, GenericCBD.com. These products and statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or illness. Yeah. Joe Biden, your Democrat Party, the media. Now, that's the functional part of the Democrat Party. As long as you consider the big lie to equal functional, which under the circumstances, I think we have to. There's more on Joe Biden, his bastard grandchild, and the media response to any discussion of this truth, of this reality. Hey, Chris here with some exciting news. Now you can listen to me live on the WMAL app. Doesn't matter if you're in your car, in the office, on the go. The WMAL app delivers crystal clear around-the-clock news coverage anywhere with cell service or Wi-Fi. So don't miss a second of your favorite shows. Download the WMAL app today on the Apple App Store or at Google Play Store.
Mr. Vice President, I'm wondering if you have a comment on this report and court filing out of Arkansas that your son, Hunter, just made you grandfather again.
No, that's a private matter. I have no comment. But only you would ask that.
And only you would ask that. That was Peter Doocy at Fox News in November of 2019 asking candidate Joe Biden about his new bastard grandchild. And, it's... But who's the real bastard here, honestly? Certainly not the child. And it could be the grandfather, and certainly the father. But that's another discussion for another day. The Daily Caller has the story today. It only took the media 1,326 days to acknowledge President Joe Biden's granddaughter. 1,326 days. Yes, sir. And it was one article in the New York Times. And that has the rest of the media lashing out in anger. Poor Navy Joan Roberts, spawn of the corrupt Biden family. I hope she gets a ton of cash, Maybe the Chinese should send her a lot of cash. That'd be thoughtful. Now, the media is naturally very upset with Democrat stenographer Maureen Dowd, who's been producing Democrat Party product at the New York Times for decades now. She is a member of the team, a member of the squad. She is, she's Democrat Party through and through. And she dared to write this article pointing out that Joe Biden goes around saying he has 6 grandchildren. Sometimes he says he has 5 grandchildren, when in reality he has 7 grandchildren. And this really upset the news media. Now, Chunk Todd, on Sunday, before the Maureen Dowd article came out in the New York Times, was already jumping on the Biden defense bandwagon and going after any Republican that would, because, Hunter Biden is a crack, and then there's the cocaine found in the West Wing of the White House, and he's got the the illegitimate child with the stripper in Arkansas, and he's an embarrassment all over the place. And the other night on the Truman balcony, it was the 4th of July, he was walking around rubbing his nose and furtively pulling his hair back, and Dr. Jill Biden, not a doctor, looked like she wanted to throw him off the Truman balcony. She was livid, furious, gnashing her teeth, squinting her eyes, looked like she wanted to myrtleize somebody. And the news media ignored that completely, of course. And he had, I think Hunter Biden now has 5 daughters. Is that nobody's got to make all that money. He's got a lot of expenses lying ahead of him. And you think he's going to make it through? He's going to see him graduate from college and stuff. It's hard to say. But here's Chunk. Chunk is a former Democrat Senate campaign staffer, right? We had Jake Tapper a little while ago, former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer in the House of Representatives. And and Chunk's wife, of course, is a big-time Democrat Party campaign apparatchik. Also, her company has taken in millions of dollars just from the Bernie Sanders campaign alone, campaigns, but 1 year alone, I think it was $3 million from the Bernie Sanders campaign. Chunk interviewed him again and again without disclosing that, the Bernie Sanders campaign was lining his pockets. And that's okay at NBC News. This was Chunk on Sunday attacking anyone that would dare to speak the truth.
I think we've all understand the personal challenge and concern and all of these things.
We all understand
that the president has here. But his political foes see this and they're trying to exploit. There's no doubt every day DeSantis or Trump tries to use Hunter to beat up Biden.
Isn't it terrible? It's almost like he's in politics or something, and that weaknesses are used by your adversaries. Certainly no one ever went after Trump for any of his weaknesses, and they attacked his wonderful wife, Melania, an international fashion model who is a beautiful woman who speaks 6 languages, is brilliant, escaped communism, never made the cover of a single magazine in the United States of America, whereas Michelle Obama every day was certainly every week on the front page of magazines. Stories, lengthy articles about her arms, which used to belong to Larry Holmes. But putting that aside, let's go to yesterday, Monday, on The View. They were very, very upset that the New York Times and Maureen Dowd published an opinion piece calling out Joe Biden for saying he had 6 grandchildren when in fact he has 7, sometimes saying he has 5. And they were very upset. Whoopi Goldberg, whose real name is Karen Johnson, we should just call her Karen Johnson, but nobody knows who she is. Whoopi is a stupid name. Goldberg, I guess that's talk about cultural appropriation. That's another example, another case of cultural appropriation. Hey, wait, in Hollywood, everybody's Jewish. I'll call myself Goldberg, and maybe that will enhance my career. And then it did, So Karen Johnson is her real name. And you may recall that before 1973, that'll be 1972, before the Roe versus Wade decision in the Supreme Court, she explained that every time you walked into a ladies' room in the United States of America, anywhere you went, ladies' rooms in the United States of America, there were women sprawled out all over the floors of public ladies' rooms giving themselves abortions. This is what she said. Whoopi Goldberg. Karen Johnson explained that.
We got tired of tripping over women in bathrooms, public bathrooms, who were giving themselves abortions because there was nowhere safe, nowhere clean, nowhere to go.
So you went to the safe, clean, public women's bathroom to give yourselves abortions. The ABC pays her millions of dollars to speak to a nationwide audience where she makes up crazy stuff and lies all the time like a psycho. Honestly, that was just that false claim is one of the most psychopathic false claims I've ever heard from anyone everywhere. All right, so here's Whoopi yesterday, a.k.a. Karen Johnson, yesterday being paid millions of dollars by ABC on a TV show called The View, where very, very angry with Maureen Dowd at the New York Times for pointing out an obvious truth.
Maureen Dowd wrote an op-ed accusing President Biden of callously scarring one of his grandchildren's lives by not publicly embracing her. So apparently his son had a baby with a woman. They've fought about it.
His son.
And
who fought about it?
He pays for the baby, but he has not embraced the child.
Yes, he pays
so
for it.
Maureen Dowd is saying it's bad for the child that the president has not acknowledged her.
Outrageous.
So I kind of think, well, she should be fetching at the son, whose baby it is. It's not the president's baby. So I don't know what you think, but I'm throwing it out there.
I agree with you completely. It shouldn't have been directed to Joe Biden. It should be directed to Hunter Biden.
That's hard to believe that they would deflect on behalf of the Democrat Party's leader. And they're paying for it. Speaking of which, he denied paternity. Then there was a DNA test which proved paternity. And then he was dragged into court and he was forced, his $500,000 spit art painting sold to anonymous buyers overseas, and the New York Times and The View, they're fine with that. Karen Johnson, they're all fine with that. And then he was ordered by the court to pay $20,000 a month. That was back in 2020. But, then recently he said, well, I can't possibly afford that. My $500,000 paintings aren't selling as quickly as I had hoped. So the amount was cut to $5,000 a month. $5,000 a month. Can you imagine? With all the millions of dollars. And but Whoopi says it's okay because he's paying for them, right? And at least it didn't leave her to a public ladies' room sprawled out on the floor all over the place. It was like Calcutta. It was crazy out there. I don't know. Where do you think Whoopi lived where that was happening all over the place? Then Ana Navarro. She used to pretend to be conservative, I think, right? Then ABC started paying her millions of dollars to lie. And she took to it like Hunter Biden at a sex club in Los Angeles. Remember, Hunter Biden was banned from that sex club. That I think the membership was like $75,000 or something, and he was banned from the sex club because of his behavior. But let's not be critical of Joe Biden for the behavior of his son, Hunter Biden, and then there's his daughter that left the diary in the drug rehab place that explained how she's a sex addict and a drug addict because, her father used to shower with her at an inappropriate age and all this stuff. Ana Navarro followed up on Karen Johnson.
The reason that's happening is because the right wing, who again is weaponizing everything related to Hunter, keeps asking, so how many children do you have, Mr. President? Grandchildren do you have?
How many? It's been speeches he delivered.
Maybe Maureen Dowd should find something else to write about.
Yeah, write about something else.
Yeah, write about something else. Why don't you write about something else? All right, should we write about Hunter Biden's sex club that he was kicked out of? Because that's kind of a fun story that the media didn't talk about. Hunter Biden kicked out of $10,000 sex club for, quote, grabbing women's expletives deleted here, acting like a, quote, spoiled child. It's a sex club in Los Angeles, California. He was a member, but he was kicked out for grabbing the buttocks of women in an unwelcome way. Hey, it's a sex club. What, I can't just go around grabbing? Come on, what are you doing walking around a sex club for if, So membership ran as high as $75,000 a year at the sex club called, it's SNCTM, all right, Sanctum. They call it Sanctum because everybody likes to misspell everything. And he was kicked out of that club because of his conduct, because of his behavior. But that's okay because, why don't you talk about something else? And they're literally paid millions of dollars each, all these Democrats, by, fellow travelers at ABC Network to spread the message of the Democrat Party, which is very, very often untrue. But that's who they are. Then Whoopi, there was more from Whoopi. We'll just get through the View. But when you're a Democrat, you got all the network shows and the late night shows and Saturday Night Live. They're all rushing to your defense. Although I do, and I said it before, the Democrat Party is now, they're tilling the soil and they're preparing the earth to kick Joe Biden out. He's going to be kicked to the curb. Just let me say it. He's going to be kicked to the curb. It's like, Magic 8 Ball. All signs point to Joe Biden is about to be kicked to the curb because the New York Times, Maureen Dowd, they're even talking about it, although they're attacking Maureen Dowd on The View. Who is it? Axios today has a big story on how wonderful Gavin Newsom is because they are, it's Politico. It's Politico. Who is Gavin Newsom's inner circle? Or who's in Gavin Newsom's inner circle? The friends, advisors, and staff influencing the California governor. Who's in Newsom's orbit? And Jeremy White and Laura Norte are typing up this story because they're preparing Governor Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, and they're preparing Gavin Newsom, the California governor, to step in when the Democrat Party and the media need them. Right. Here's the whoopster.
These things are, for me, when you start talking about people's families and what they're doing, I find it unnecessary.
It's unnecessary.
This is not anybody's business. Nobody needed to know about this. No. This is private.
Nobody needed to know about it.
People feel like you need to know everything. I'm sorry, you don't. You need to know not almost anything about people.
You need to know.
We would talk about it is the thing. If Trump had a grandkid, he wasn't acknowledged. He probably does. Didn't acknowledge Tiffany very much.
What are you talking about? If Trump had a grandchild he didn't acknowledge, you guys would have a segment on it every single day. He didn't acknowledge Tiffany? Where did that come? Where did that come from? That's like Joe Biden doesn't acknowledge Hunter. Really? You people make the lies so big that no one would dare to not believe it. And I want to play this again because Jake Tapper yesterday talking to Kara Swisher, who does a podcast called Out with Kara Swisher. I assume that means LGBTQ. I can only, because what else does out mean? It's like pride mean one, and out means one thing, right? With Jake Tapper, former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer.
Hunter Biden's deal with federal prosecutors and assorted Hunter scandals.
I think we cover it. We have been covering it, and we need to cover it. And
really,
there are these whistleblowers who allege that there was much worse, and the DOJ didn't listen. And then you have the former U.S. Attorney Weiss, who says he had complete control, and he's a Republican appointee, a Trump appointee. We just cover it all.
We just cover it all, except the fact that David Weiss, the Delaware District Attorney, was first appointed acting U.S. Attorney by Barack Obama, and then interim U.S. Attorney by Barack Obama. And then President Trump was convinced by the two Democrat senators from Delaware to keep him there. And so President Trump went along with the Democrat senators from Delaware and put the Obama two-time appointed as acting and as interim U.S. Attorney in Delaware by Obama. And Jake Tapper left that out. But I don't leave those things out because, as you know, the most insidious power the media has is the power to ignore. And Jake Tapper just demonstrated that there again. It's an ongoing thing, with all these former Democrat political operatives who are now network news anchors. Jake Tapper.
Hunter Biden is who he is. It's pretty clear who he is. In addition to being an addict, he's a guy who ethically there have been questions raised about his behavior, and I think it's worth covering. It's also worth covering in context, the context of everything that's being said in terms of like how fact-based any of it is or how evidence-based any of it is. But I'm not going to shy away from covering Hunter Biden. He is the president's son and has made a lot of money being the president's son.
You think he's made a lot of money being the president's son? And we've covered it. We've covered it just like he covered it right there. That David Weiss, the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, is a Trump appointee. Now, that's half true, but Snopes would say needs context because he's, I got to tell you, that the media, the lie is so big that even they would not dare to not believe it. Pretty amazing stuff. Our media. Thank God I'm here.
I would fact check that too.
All right, I'm going to get to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Being asked whether Dr. Anthony Fauci should face criminal charges and maybe go to prison. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had a couple of interesting things to say, as he often does. The Hill newspaper in Washington, D.C. has the headline today, a record share of Americans is living alone. I know you're thinking, are living alone? No, a record share is. I think that's grammatically correct. Nearly 30% of American households comprise a single person, a record high number. Scholars say living alone is not a trend so much as a transformation. Across much of the world, large numbers of people are living alone for the first time in recorded history, and certainly in the United States. It's just a stunning social change, said Eric Kleinenberg, a sociologist at New York University and author of the book Going Solo. He's very lonely, involuntarily celibate, probably. I came to see it as the biggest demographic change in the last century that we failed to recognize and take seriously. Homo sapiens, a social animal, historians tapped into ancient census rolls to find out that the species has lived in groups for as long as such records have been in existence, going back to 1600. But now the U.S. Census shows that solitaries made up 8% of all households in 1940, and the share of solo households doubled to 18% in 1970, and more than tripled to an estimated 29% by 2022. So in 1940, 8% of us lived alone, and now 29% of us live alone. Isn't that interesting? So when you see a grumpy-faced person at the grocery store, have a little pity, take a little compassion. And it's kind of funny because my best girl and I, we were reading this aloud to each other on the couch today, going over the story on the couch, which we do. And we started counting. We live in a building in Washington, D.C., and we realized our apartment borders 5 apartments. And the 5 apartments that border our apartment are all people living alone. 4 women and 1 man. Let me see. That's correct? Yeah. Every apartment above us, below us, to our left, to our right, everywhere you look. Oh, and next door to that, people living alone. And we started counting the number of people live alone in our building. Said, holy cannoli. Never thought of that before.